Father Dries here, answering high school questions from September 24th. This is the second set. These two more questions about kind of things about related to the church. One of them is why doesn't the church sell all the beautiful artwork to give money to the poor? Very good question. Why doesn't the church just sell everything, help the poor? Isn't that the church kind of to care for the poor? Yes, so the church is to care for the poor. We're all to care for the poor. But also the poor have, just as all of us, have more than just material needs. I mean, you can feed someone, you can clothe, house them, but we have spiritual needs. We all have a desire for beauty. And the church's art, kind of preserving art, kind of timeless art, helps make it accessible to all people. Like in churches and such, like everyone that comes in, everyone who comes into St. Joseph's or St. Francis or another Catholic church, and there's kind of maybe different pieces of art or statuary and stuff that kind of helps raise our minds, our hearts to something higher than ourselves, kind of like the crucifix at St. Joseph's. It helps kind of focus all of it. We're entering into living contact with Christ's saving sacrifice at Mass, and kind of the realness of that crucifix kind of helps us enter more fully into the mystery of Christ's saving work that's made present in the Mass. And so it help raise our minds, our hearts. It can inspire us. The artwork, churches in Rome and Europe and stuff. People can come into those churches and whether they make $1 million or whether they're kind of they're living on the streets, they all go in there and kind of partake in the beauty of the art there, which beauty helps it raises our minds and hearts ultimately to help lead us to the one who's beauty itself, the Lord. And so the church preserving kind of beautiful artwork, timeless artwork, helps make it accessible to all peoples. It's not sold and then in a private collection or sold to some agency or institution that's not gonna last till the end of time. I mean, the church will. Now, the church, could someone raid the Vatican? Well, sure, yeah. But the reality is that Christ has promised that the church will remain until the end of time. The church he founded, his Catholic Church. And so what better place to have these timeless pieces of art where it's accessible to all, for both the rich and the poor and everyone in between, that they can gaze upon these artwork and have their minds kind of elevated, inspired, to help move them to kind of really seek the one who's beauty itself. So yes, it's a both and. We're to help care for the poor, but the poor have more than just material needs. Their spiritual needs, and artwork. It's kind of that we all have a desire for beauty, and so that's part of the reason why the church seems so important of preserving beautiful artwork, because we aren't robots, we're humans, and we desire what is beautiful, in communion with the one who is beauty itself, the Lord. Next question: what does the church think about dinosaurs? Well, the church has no official kind of, stance, I don't think, about dinosaurs. I guess maybe the deeper question here is, well, what about creation, the Bible versus kind of a creationist understanding or evolution? Maybe that's the question behind this. Is it, well, how did that work out? And I think, you can be a faithful Catholic and be either one who believes kind of in evolution, millions of years, or you can be one who believes, no, God created in 6 days. And so the church hasn't given any official stance on that. And maybe we can have a special evening or something where I go through more of the details and stuff. There's a lot here. I think a lot of the assumptions, though, that modern science has made about millions of years, I think it's worth calling into question, just because how do we know something is this bone or this rock is millions or billions of years old? Well, do you have a rock for sure is that old? There's a lot of assumptions that are made in some of these scientific these theories really, and So I think it's worth kind of having a critical eye, in a healthy way of asking those deeper questions. Um, Church, what does the church think about dinosaurs? I guess probably the church says, well, yeah, they seem to exist. We have bones and stuff. But how that all fits in, the church is given no official. There's a certain leeway. You can, creationist, which sometimes gets labeled as a fundamentalist, but I think that's unfair, because the early church Christians or whatever were more or less, for the first 800 years, all the bishops and stuff were very clear that, 6 days creation. It's not till the late 1800s when this idea of, well, maybe it's more than just 6 days kind of came in. So church, you can hold either. I think just to be respectful to someone who's on the other side and help to see where they're coming from. So there we are.